You know what time it is. It's Mr. Why am I not subscribed? What the hell? It's time to react to Solo Leveling Recap. Everything you need to know for Season 2 from Mr. Aninews himself.
Solo Leveling isn't a particularly complicated plot to remember, but what it does have is a fleshed out world, diverse cast, and intricate power system. As an anime that seems like it's gonna be here for the long run, I figure a recap of the early events might be something worth having.
Let's go.
Just a quick go-to video where you can look back and remember where Sung Jin-woo started. So, the anime starts things off with a flashback
Jeju.
to 3 years prior, showing Korea's third failed attempt at securing Jeju Island.
Third failed attempt? Shit, let's not make this a fourth attempt, you know, whenever we handle the actual arc.
We don't get an explanation as to why this island is infested with ants, but it does introduce hunters, the immense power of the S ranks, and the guilds that are built around them.
Why is this island infested with ants? Well, I thought it's like a dungeon break happened, right? You had like a dungeon that had a lot of these strong ants, I guess, inside, and they couldn't clear the gate, and if you don't do that enough, the monsters come out. And now you're fucked.
Hunters are those who awakened with powers due to the integration of mana within their body. The amount of magical power within them determines whether they're ranked from E to S, then the fact these hunters were the only ones capable of fighting the magical beasts which appeared 10 years ago resulted in a global billion-dollar industry built around them.
Here's a fun conspiracy theory. What if this is all created by mankind? Because look at this. It is literally a global billion-dollar industry. Now, they could have simply made the best with a shitty situation and monetized it, but what if there's like, you know, like, do you know how the best way to make money is? You create the problem, then sell the solution. Now, I don't want to have a conspiracy theory and think that the higher ups of the hunters organizations are the one that like fabricated this whole like gate system, but that'd be an interesting plot twist.
It had birthed organizations known as guilds in which most hunters are now employed under. Now, the current perception is that once an individual has awakened to their powers, there's nothing they can do to raise them or get stronger.
Unless it's a second awakening, which is just a static jump from one rank to another and you don't move on. But then you can be like Sung Jin-woo, where you just keep progressing.
Well, Sung Jin-woo serves as the exception, all because of a hidden dungeon within what should have just been a regular D-rank dungeon. Before, he was seen as the weakest hunter in the world, but after that, he had become so much more.
I thought he was the weakest hunter in Japan. Sorry, this is Korea. In the world? That's actually super humiliating if it's like the entire world he's ranked last.
It's while said raid was going on, though, that lots of characters were introduced in between. There's Sung's old friend Juhi, the leader of the raid, Mr. Song.
This guy's pretty cool. He was even like, what was he? Wasn't he practicing kendo with Cha Hae-in?
The chairman of the Hunter Association, Go Gun-hee, then
Giga
chief
Chad.
inspector of the association's surveillance team, Woo Jin-chul.
I like how he stood up to Hwang Dong-soo in the most recent episode. He stands on business, man. This guy is not to be fucked around with.
The initial two are more side characters related to Sung's personal life, while the latter serve as lore dumps explaining why hunters do what they do.
I wonder how he got these scars. Like, that's crazy. Like, you know he had to be fucking crazy strong back in the day. Look at these scars on him. I want to see him in action.
So, gates open up connecting dungeons to the real world, and should a gate remain open for longer than a week, the
Dungeon
monsters
break.
within can escape, resulting in what's called a dungeon break.
His wife beat him, maybe? No. That's in Re:Zero. The Appa salesman, Kadamon Rish, his scars is from his wife. Now, it's not confirmed that the wife like actually beat him or like scarred him, but like the reason for his scars is because of his wife from the wiki, apparently.
This is what the hunters fight to avoid, because when monsters escape into the human world, there's nothing regular people can do to fight back. Only hunters can fight against monsters. A further incentive motivating guilds to clear dungeons is the insane amount of money that can be made from doing so.
Oh, that angle.
Not only are there rare resources to be extracted from the dungeon itself, but every monster defeated also drops an essence stone. These are then sold and turned into powerful weapons and equipment, allowing for hunters to perform more higher level raids.
That's right. And there's like different types of like resources too that adds into like the sustainability factor of this world, right? I forget exactly what it was, but like beyond just like these gems that you can sell for money, they literally like power our like whole like power system here. Like not power as in like power scaling, but like infrastructure, like electricity, power, sustainability, stuff like that.
As it turns out though, the government seems to have their sights set on another purpose for the dungeon's resources.
There it is.
An alternative power source safer than nuclear and more efficient than all the others.
There it is.
The ideal clean energy source capable of catapulting society forward. This makes hunters and guilds the exclusive source of these resources, setting them up as one of the most valuable assets currently out there.
Kind of interesting how this negative, like you would think that a dungeon opening, like a gate opening with monsters potentially coming out is like a really terrible thing, but this honestly seems like a blessing in disguise. $1 billion industry was created. You got new, clean, sustainable energy resources. Like, Earth is thriving because of these gates, man.
So, knowing just how much money can be made from being a hunter, it makes sense then that despite Sung Jinwoo being the weakest, he would continue to be a hunter in order to pay for his mother's medical bills and his sister's tuition.
Literally, the opening one, there's a line guy that said, gotta pay the bills, pay the bills.
The medical coverage was more so a benefit of being a Hunter Association employee, but the potential to get paid was certainly far higher than any other job.
Wait a minute, it's this scene again. I keep remembering this. There's a demon. Hold up.
But the potential...
Demon? B rank, A rank. I remember. Demons! Those who manipulate demons. This one. I remember this shit from last year! You remember what the fuck? That because like we know that demons also exist in like, you know, a secret place that Sung Jinwoo goes to, right? With that like the tower, remember the place that we beat the Cerberus and shit? And the opening also hints like a demon waifu.
Potential to get paid was certainly far higher than any other job. Keep in mind his mom's illness isn't something that can be cured either.
Eternal mewing disease. Look at that jawline, bro. She's locked the fuck in, mocking everybody.
Illness isn't something that can be cured either, so the bills are a recurring cost that keep her on life support.
That's right.
If he wanted his mom to live, then this to him was the only way. So, here we get to see just how weak Sung Jinwoo is, barely being able to fight a goblin. Juhee constantly has to heal him, putting into question why he's even a hunter in the first place.
For money.
Since we already know the answer though, the same can be applied to why he chose to continue further into the hidden dungeon. The fact his dad went missing also served as motivation as well. Next, we see the...
And I think it's heavily hinted that we're gonna see dad in season 2, right? The trailer and the openings, there's a dude with pretty long hair that's like an older man, and it's like, it has to be Jinwoo's dad. Maybe it isn't, right? I'm just randomly guessing, but he looked really fucking strong, and I just feel like it's gotta be him.
The testing of Sung's future friend Jinho, followed by a display of how guilds are constantly trying to recruit new high-rank hunters. The guild in question is the Hunters Guild, and it's shown to be led by the S-rank hunter Choi. His goal is to pick up any...
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, the pronunciation and the written way of Korean names, because of course, anyone's gonna call this Choi, right? You see a Vietnamese last name called Nguyen. Of course, everyone's gonna call it Nguyen, right? But it's more closer to Win. And this here, instead of Choi, it's Che. How is it supposed to sound like though? Honestly, it would be like CHE, Che. That would be like a closer way of pronouncing this instead of Choi, but like, this is such a fucking bait. This is such an unfair way of writing this name.
His goal is to pick up any hunter that seems like they could be valuable, specifically in hopes of buffing the guild's overall manpower, but to do that, they'd need another S-rank hunter like her. This is Cha Hae-in, and though we likely won't be seeing her as a prominent character for a little bit longer,
still, she was smelling up our boy in the trailer.
She has been making recurring appearances as one of the top member of Choi's Hunters Guild.
Yup.
She's currently been assigned to training new recruits, since while it is helpful to maintain the Hunter Guild's position as a top 5 guild in the country, it also makes them far more notable in the international scene, a field where at the moment, they're really nothing special.
Korea is trash in the international scene. We haven't seen... Well, I mean, we know that Hwang Dong-soo is from America, right? But we haven't seen like other nations like S-rank hunters just yet other than Hwang Dong-soo. And okay, the world building is like expanding.
Switching back to Sung now, with him and the others finally making it to the end of the double dungeon, that's when they're met by the nightmare which would slaughter pretty much everyone. Only 4 of them made it out in the end, leaving Sung behind as the last one standing. This resulted in him acquiring the qualifications to become a player, not only saving him from what would have been certain death, but also granting him access to this video game-like system. So, after a flash of light symbolizing his acceptance into the system, Sung would be found by the hunters of the White Tiger Guild, awaken in a hospital, then be questioned by Wu from the Hunters Association. Since so many hunters died
Zap.
and nothing was found,
I'm confident in my legs. I'm a speedster. Yeah, I see that.
their first assumption was that Sung Jinwoo had reawakened. A second awakening allowing previously graded hunters to exceed their limits and rise to the A or S rank. It was the only explanation for how
Really? Reawaken or like second awakening is literally minimum A or even S rank? Or maybe it's just the wording put by Aninews. I thought that second awakening was basically you just jumping from one rank to another and it's gonna be static, meaning you're stuck there again. But wait, based on he's saying it sounds like it could be either A or S rank.
to exceed their limits and rise to the A or S rank. It was the only explanation for how Sung could have survived. This
I guess they're interpreting like he had to minimum be A or S rank to survive a dungeon of that caliber, rather than the whole second awakening being minimum A or S rank.
was of course proven incorrect, as a second test of Sung's mana proved to be worse than his first. What he gained instead was a system designed specifically to assist with the development of the player, aka him. His daily quest would then be presented to him, a penalty applied for him not doing it, then rewards given for the completion of it.
Daily grind, baby.
For the daily quests that are completed, a full recovery instantly brings him back to full health and stamina. 3 ability points can be used to bolster any of these 5 attributes, then a random mystery box is given because what's a game without some gacha mechanics?
It is so interesting though how this daily quest system can be abused to help us. Like abusing not doing our daily quests so that if we get a penalty, we can time it such that we get ported out somewhere else. That's what we did in the finale episode, right? We need to buy time. By being ported out, we were basically just, it's like a get out of free jail card. There's also, stacking up the daily quests so that you don't have to finish them every day, but rather do a shitload in one day. Then later on, I guess you can kind of like work off of that. There's also like, what is it called? The cure-all, right? Basically like super potion. You do this shit and you get, you just restore, full restore. And you can choose to use that later on too. So it's just like, damn, there's this daily quest. You wouldn't think that it would help us directly in like combat and shit like that, but here it is.
For the most part, those boxes usually contain something useless, but every now and then Sung would get something like a dungeon key. This would lead him to the instance dungeon at the subway station, where Sung would get his first chance to level up. He first spent a week upgrading his strength via the daily quests, then set out to test what his new self was capable of. By the end, he had achieved level 17, improved his stats by over 80 points in total, then gained a brand new dagger with which he could fight with.
Hype.
Experience gained was proportional to the difficulty of the monster he was fighting against, and their difficulty was indicated by the color of the text dictating what they were.
That's right. Red means bad, out of our league. Orange is like difficult.
Each level up then boosted his stats by 1 point in every attribute, making the dungeon easier the more he farmed it. The boss was still pretty
Man, imagine if we were able to use Arise on this thing.
difficult, but after that was beat and Sung exited the dungeon, his new power was highlighted by the D-rank golem he just straight up one-shot.
This shit is
A little
cool.
more time would
And then that was it, right? After this episode, everything changed. After this episode, he walked away and Juhi's like looking back. He's like, whoa, who's that guy? And then boom, he's so hot now.
shot. A little more time would be spent training at the hospital, after which Sung would be transformed into this. We then get our first good look at Beck, the leader of another top 5 guild, the White Tiger Guild.
Yeah.
Now, Sung's return to his life would remind him he still needed to make money, so in order to get some quick cash for rent, he decided to join a strike squad as a stand-in.
The
A
lizard
simple
tail.
addition to the team just so they could meet the 8-person minimum required to do the dungeon. Such were the rules the Hunter Association imposed, and this was Hwang Dong-suk's way of bypassing them.
Hwang Dong-suk.
So, it's here Sung would become acquainted with you, the wealthy son of a business billionaire.
He is giving me a different opinion about Nepo kids. Jinho is a very good kid. Yes, he's rich as fuck. He's pretty much like the son of a billionaire. But like, he's very down to earth. He wants to earn every bit of, the success too.
Both would then get trapped in the boss room, left behind to serve as bait and a distraction. A C-rank boss wasn't enough to intimidate Sung though, as being level 18 gave him the confidence to at least try and fight. So after a fierce back and forth in which Sung's fatigue limit was starting to affect him, his full recovery reward would provide him the strength needed to land the critical hits necessary to win. That's when Hwang and his crew would make their return, threatening Sung to the point that the system would have to step in.
Yeah.
Since Sung's life was
Kill
determined to
them.
be in danger,
Dark
an urgent
Arya.
quest was given requiring him to kill the ones who betrayed him. The result was one of the coldest sequences in the entire anime,
It was pretty
showing
sick.
Sung's transformation into someone who will do what was necessary.
Yep.
Since hesitation almost got him killed here, that was a mistake he wasn't going to make twice.
This is like the turning point of his personality kind of changing. I don't know how much they're going to work with like the edginess, the like what's it called, falling into the darkness, cliche. I'm still thinking that like if we are still gonna work with off of that, of how he just continues to kill and he loses more and more humanity and becomes numb, the obvious trope of like, a loved one, a love interest, hugging the guy that's going crazy from the back and being able to like reset him, right? How many times have we seen shit like that happen? I just feel like Cha Hae-in is the perfect candidate for that.
Now, it was in between all this that Go and Woo's training would highlight the importance of hunters refining their technique,
Giga-chat.
while some members of the Hunter and White Tiger Guild would discuss the inner workings of their own training. These are once again characters who will show up later, so it's
Okay.
good to remember at least which guild they're a part of. It's also important to note that Hwang Dong-suk was older brother to Hwang Dong-soo, an S-rank hunter currently employed in America. It doesn't take long for the news of his brother's death to reach him, setting in motion a whole separate revenge plot. In the meantime, we have the Hunter Association gaining suspicion on Sung, while Sung himself continued to discover how the system worked. Jinho would then ask Sung to help him finish the 20 raids so he can become a guildmaster, resulting in the deal which would allow Sung to continue leveling up solo.
We got paid a lot
For a bit
here.
more context as to why Jinho's father even wants a guild, it's mainly because it's a profitable market he wants to get into.
That's right. He's like, what's it called? He's like in the construction business, but obviously the hunter, business is very lucrative. You're trying to get in it. There's like a competition between the elder brother and the little brother.
You see, with the 5 most powerful guilds effectively serving as a monopoly, they essentially have full control over a resource that society is becoming increasingly reliant on. This has in turn made guilds incredibly wealthy, and that was a pie Jinho's father now wanted a piece of.
This whole aspect of like couple companies, corporations ruling over Korea is actually very real. I don't know if you guys know what the whole chaebols, but in Korea, these companies known as Samsung, LG, Hyundai, SK, and so on, they basically are the rulers of Korea. It's cyberpunk. It genuinely is. These companies have so much power because like what happened at the end of World War II is that Korea became a very trash, very poor country. There was no productiveness. Everything was like, just down in the shitters. And Korea had this huge plan. This president went in and said, you know what? We need to turn shit around. We need to focus on exporting technology. So the government then gave special privileges to these companies, right? Samsung, LG, Hyundai, SK, to just like be Korea's saviors. And they did it. They did it so fucking well that Samsung alone, I think, accounts for like what, half of Korea's economy or some shit. Like the level of power these companies have is more than the government. It's fucking crazy.
As a monopoly, they essentially have full control over a resource that society is becoming increasingly reliant on. This has in turn made guilds incredibly wealthy, and that was a pie Jinho's father now wanted a piece of. Whether or not his intentions were noble like how he says, he could only get that piece by establishing a guild first. Thus the reason we see him
Cameraman knows the best angles whenever Cha Hae-in shows up.
attempting to poach hunters like Cha. In any case, Sung would still get the deed to the 30 billion won guild building, but at the same time also be able to do dungeons all by himself. It was while Jinho was finding stand-ins for these raids that Sung would gain access to yet another instance dungeon, get his ass beat by the very first enemy he came across, then
Yeah.
somehow pull through with the help of the cash shop and its potions.
Didn't we keep dropping potions or something too? Doesn't he have Butterfingers? I sort of got this shit also happened in the finale episode.
This made it clear that this S-rank dungeon was a bit too hard, so while it did contain the cure for his mother's illness, Sung knew he wouldn't be able to claim it now.
I think that like season 2 will probably cover more of this whole Demon Castle special place, right? Probably after the Red Gate, we're gonna be doing that shit.
The elixir of life was something that would have to wait until he was stronger. This brings us to Sung's emergency summon from the Association, reuniting him with the survivors from the Double Dungeon, plus a few extras in the form of Kang and his prisoners.
Oh, this one was
the gate
good.
was supposed to just be a simple cleanup, but after coming across Kang in the middle of his extracurriculars, the whole thing would quickly escalate into a fight to the death. So, an urgent quest would dictate him as an enemy that needed to
Domain
be killed,
expansion!
and Sung would do just that in yet another cold display of mercilessness.
Domain expansion!
Right before Kang would die though, Sung would first reveal his ability to grow stronger, then Kang would warn Sung of the darkness that would come from it. Sung couldn't help but agree, since the stronger he got, the more he felt like he was losing himself.
We haven't gotten that much of that in the beginning of season 2, right? The whole like aspect of him becoming more and more falling into the abyss. Wonder how much they're actually gonna focus on that, or if this is gonna be like an afterthought.
It was as if something within him was falling apart the more he did what the system wanted him to.
We just need Chae-in to say you smell good, then everything will be fine.
In any case, with Sung having defeated an upper B rank, he was at the very least as strong as a low A rank now.
Okay.
Fast forward through his solo raids with Jinho, and that would bring him to level 40, the required level to enter the job change quest. It was during this that a manager from the White Tiger Guild would gain an interest in Sung, leading to his own attempt to recruit Sung to his own guild.
Negotiations!
Sung would finesse him out of a few hundred
Oh, we threatened this guy when we went invisible too, right?
million won, then head out to the forest where he could complete his new quest uninterrupted. This is where Sung would come across some of his toughest opponents yet, culminating with his battle with Igris. It was an epic fight edged out by Sung's strategic use of his with his did. This is where Sung would come across some of his toughest opponents yet, culminating with his battle with Igris.
I don't know why I added a D to his name, lol. That's what I want to see.
It was an epic fight edged out by Sung's strategic use of his weapons and equipment. Killing Igris was just the first part though, since after that, wave after wave of knights bombarded him relentlessly.
Bonus
Visions
rounds.
of his allies and former self would urge him to give up, but the resolve of Sung now was far greater than what it was before. Then, right as Sung was about to be killed, he would be transported to the penalty zone almost out of pure luck.
This is crazy, dude. The daily quest penalty coming in clutch is fucking crazy. This again, like the whole full restore potion, how we can like utilize it and just save it. And we can port out. It's hard to time it, right? Like the timing of this was ridiculously lucky. We can't just like anticipate in advance that like, all right, if I don't do the penalty right now, then like later on, like for sure at this one time that I'll be able to port out. But like, this is a thing. This is a thing. It's like very realistic, abusing the game mechanics.
His former self actually believed it to be a higher power's intervention, stating how it seemed like something didn't want him to die yet.
So... Not a coincidence, huh? The system? Whoever granted him this power? That's still the big mystery. Why was he granted his power? Because he passed the requirement for Courage of the Weak. I don't know, man. I don't know!
So, after...
Is there someone watching us? There's a very interesting visuals that you see in the solo leveling ending in season 1. Because like it's almost like there's somebody watching Jin move from like a TV. You know what I mean? It feels like we're being observed, that like Sung Jin Moo is playing a game and he's a player. But if you think about video games, who has the controller? Right? You could also think of who is the developer of the game, who's actually playing the game. So like if we are we in a simulation? are we in a simulation?
After recovering in the penalty zone and leveling up 4 more times, Sung would be more than capable of defeating all the monsters awaiting him. This would reward him the class of Necromancer, a title quickly enhanced to that of Shadow Monarch.
Yep.
In the end, He had successfully commanded the Knights and Igris to join his ranks, marking yet another transformation from that of the weakest hunter, all the way to a powerful leader capable of commanding a shadow army.
So hype.
This was the point where Season 1 ended for Sung, but for everyone else there was a far greater fight brewing.
The ants.
All throughout the last few episodes, bits and pieces were shown building the conflict at Jeju Island. The last scene was Choi and his squad finding a disturbing development of the ants that once decimated their raid teams before. There's definitely some heavy trauma behind the failed raids at Jeju before.
Oh yeah! Yo, this scene went crazy! Holy shit, I forgot about this! We have the fire dude, right? The fire dude guild leader? He has trauma cutscene? This shit went insane!
And it seems like that's the arc that the anime is building up to the most.
Like the regret that he has. So up until this point, I thought that he was kind of just like a pretty cocky guy that just has like loose morals. I don't know why I assumed that. But looking at this flashback, he seems to have been genuinely impacted by the loss that happened in Jeju Island. A lot of guilt that he holds, right? Shown by the visuals. That this scene, it just came out of fucking nowhere. This shit was so good.
We probably won't see it in Season 2, but I would expect a lot more teases of what's to come from it.
Okay.
But anyway, that's what happened in Solo Leveling Season 1. I didn't really mention anything about Sung Jinwoo's power because that's actually a video that I'm gonna make separately.
Oh, smart.
I'll also release Episode 1's cut content soon, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see how the anime differs from the manhwa and novel.
Oh, thank fucking God Aninews is back with solo leveling content that we can find. I bless this man. Bless this man for keeping us, in the whole farming cycle. That was a great video. Here's a link to his channel though. Click it. Go like the video. Check out his channel if you haven't. Oh, look at me. It's Ben 10. Look at me. I'll see you next time.